Woke is all the rage. Not woke be out and woke gas bag Dan Le Batard. Well, Fat Dan, he of the John Skipper regime of ESPN, John famously fired himself or got fired over wait for it, cocaine extortion. That's the head of ESPN. That's the level. The human bowling ball that is Dan Le Batard was all hot and feisty. He was hot and feisty upon hearing the news that friend of our show, Jon Gruden, has been drawing interest from vacant NFL teams. Well, Dave Portnoy caught wind of the human bowling ball's nonsense and wasn't having it. See, Le Batard wants us all to live in a world where everybody speaks perfectly. And if you don't, you must be persecuted, even if it is private emails that are leaked. Le Batard, of course, being the perfect one, he and his sidekick, old knee pad Stugotz, have never done anything nefarious, have never made a mistake. If you listen to them, they are perfect. And others that are not, that are outside their little realm, remember, they give airtime to Howard Bryant, a man who got arrested for choking his wife. I think it was his wife, may have been his lover. Don't know. Same thing. You get it. Le Batard picks and chooses, and if you're not on the right side of Le Batard, well, Fat Dan will sit on you, figuratively, and if he was around you, literally. Let's go to it. Here's Le Batard talking about Gruden.
Rex Ryan being recycled in an interview by the Jets is amazing for a number of reasons, not the least of which is they don't need to interview him. They know how terrible he is.
No.
Wait a second. We went to back-to-back AFC championship games.
But they know what he is.
Let's get a damn snack.
All right, they know how great he is. Fine, whatever. The interview's unnecessary. Least offensive of these two interviews. Jon Gruden, his name being mentioned near anything should cause shame eternally for everyone involved with that league. The idea that that can be recycled into something after what that has done publicly just because he smirks and is charming and we're in a different America than we were when he was the highest paid face and voice at ESPN on behalf of football enthusiasm. I understand that Barstool resuscitated him. I don't blame second chances. I think everybody should actually get second chances. But that guy with those crimes going right to the top of the food chain again for the top of the jobs, because the way to do all this stuff, whether it's Louis Riddick over here or whether it's Rex Ryan, is just be on television. One of these football teams will think that's leadership enough. Just be around talking about football, and we'll figure out how to make it a leader. And it doesn't matter how much garbage is on the resume.
Okay. I mean, the crime is what? A private email getting leaked? Okay, that's the crime. I mean, that's the big crime here. I mean, the bigger crime is the Raiders didn't get very good, if you want to go that route. But that's the big crime. I mean, we got raping, robbing, we got fentanyl, George Floyd killing people, but becoming a hero. We got that Dennis guy having what? Puts a chokehold on an African-American person with the help of an Afro-American person defending an African-American person, and he's got to go to trial for manslaughter. We got what now? We're worried about some email from 20 years ago? What? That's the crime? Imagine someone saying someone's private emails being leaked illegally is a crime. Le Batard is a self-righteous jackass. Yeah, he's right. Of course he is. He's a self-righteous jackass. Perfect way to put it, actually. The jackass is perfect. Self-righteous always. He's also a terrible guy to lead into your radio show. When he was on ESPN, he was on before us. And I mean, we went from a morning show that was here to him that was here, and then we brought it up to here. But my God, Fat Dan, man, don't commit a crime if you're on the wrong side of Fat Dan. I mean, please don't do it. I mean, I would say the bigger crime is one of his friends, Mina Kimes. Think about this. She endorsed heavily, publicly, with influence, the current mayor of Los Angeles. How's that worked out? That's a bigger crime than some leaked email from 15 years ago. But when you are not on the side of the liberals, boy, oh boy, you know the story. You know it's got to be hammered down. You're awful. You're horrible. It's all projection. It is all projection because they are always the worst of the worst. There's nobody worse than Fat Dan Le Batard. Well, nonviolent crime division, let's go radio TV division. There's many people worse than Fat Dan Le Batard. But radio TV division, oh, please. And his little sidekick, get my knee pads on because Dan is talking Stugotz, probably just as bad. Although I feel as this Stugotz is trying to distance himself from the shit show that is Fat Damn. Let's look at this. Jon Gruden, as a head coach, this is what should decide whether or not Jon Gruden is a head coach again. Right here. 117, 112 over 15 years with the Raiders and Buccaneers. Super Bowl, whatever the hell all that is, champ. So he won a Super Bowl. He went 117 and 112 over 15 years of having the opportunity to being a head coach. Youngest NFL coach at the time to win a Super Bowl, 39 years old. Okay. That to me determines it. That to me decides whether or not Jon Gruden should get a head coaching interview. Look, if you're going to say Jon Gruden, based on what he did with the Raiders on the field, deserves an interview, I'm all in. If you're going to say Jon Gruden, based on what he did with the Raiders, doesn't deserve an interview, I'm all in. If you want to say we don't want to get a white guy in here, great. That's the world we live in. If you want to say we want to get a white guy, that's the world we live in. I don't know what to tell you. There's many reasons to interview Jon Gruden. There's reasons not to interview Jon Gruden, but certainly not one of them is an email to a friend from 25 years ago, maybe even longer, frankly. No, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's total buffoonery. It's total jackassery, and I'm not here for it. It's like last night, my friend Molly McGrath. I am friends with Molly McGrath. I like Molly McGrath, but she is in the unfortunate position last night of doing what the bosses at ESPN want her to do. You want to go on that podium after the bowl game, the Orange Bowl, and you want to talk to Marcus Freeman, you're going to ask about being the first black coach. You're not going to ask about being the first what? Asian coach, the first black coach. You're not going to be asked about being at Notre Dame or his team. No, the race car had to be pulled out, and Molly is catching hell from everybody from Clay Travis to Brett Favre today. ESPN reporter pulls out the race card. You've just seen it, you've read it, you know it. Well, all right. She's just doing what her bosses are telling her to do. If she didn't ask about that, oh my God, should have been called in. It was ironic yesterday. My friend Scotty Johnson. Scotty Johnson was the director. Did you notice, speaking of all of this, that ESPN not only played the anthem, but they also showed Jimmy Pitaro and Dick Vitale in Jimmy Pitaro's suite. Who's Jimmy Pitaro? The little guy that told ESPN to go completely insanely racist. Insanely racist. He's the boss at ESPN. So back to Gruden. Gruden, who was at ESPN, can be hired, can be fired for a variety of reasons. Period. Fine. That's great. But not an email. ESPN continues to do what ESPN does. If you don't like ESPN, of course, you can always turn it off. But don't think for a second ESPN isn't going to go ESPN and ask a question about race right off the bat. That's just what's going to happen. By the way, it was a great game last night. I'm really happy for Marcus Freeman. The more I watched Marcus Freeman, the more I liked. I did. I know people discounted Notre Dame after the Northern Illinois game, maybe myself included. I picked back up attention when they started routing people, and I thought to myself, hang on here, caller. This is a pretty good team, because I don't care what you're doing or who you're doing it against. If you're playing major college football against Power 5 teams, some of whom were ranked, and you're blowing the doors off them, you're a pretty good team. I picked them up after they made a little bit of a comeback against Louisville and beat them pretty good. So good for Marcus Freeman. Don't hate on Molly McGrath for doing what absolutely everybody that ESPN wants her to do. And don't hate on Jon Gruden. You don't want to hire Jon Gruden? Don't hire Jon Gruden. You see his record, you see his personality, maybe it fits, hire him. Maybe it doesn't fit, don't hire him. But it isn't because of some little email. Not even sort of, kind of, maybe. No chance. Not because of that. And Fat Dan is still stuck a few years ago where we're all supposed to say George Floyd's a hero and put up a statue to him. I lift a cheek to you, Batard. I lift a cheek to you, ESPN. But I will say, at least you learned from your mistakes, ESPN, and you showed the anthem. That was a rambling open, they call it. I was trying to connect the point, not sure I did. Jim Trotter, legendary racist We don't like white people, and that's probably not fair. Trotter probably over the years went about his job very, very, very low key. Nobody paid attention to him. And then, of course, like everybody else, he became down for the cause. The cause is a fentanyl lifelong criminal, George Floyd. A fentanyl riddled lifelong criminal, George Floyd, allegedly. At least that's what toxicology showed. Anyway, so Jim Trotter is sitting here as a race baiter. He's a sports writer, but he learned there's cap money out there. There's fame out there. Race bait your ass up. But he was more famous for suing the NFL for discrimination. He revealed he's retiring from the media, and I can honestly say nobody, not one person other than Mrs. Trotter or maybe the little Trotters, gave two shits about it. Trotter's the same reporter that said his former employer, The Athletic, watered down a column about Nick Bosa's MAGA hat appearance. It really upset Jim Trotter that Bosa put a MAGA hat on. He wanted to go rip shit, right? He wanted to go bat blank crazy. He wanted to go nuts, and they watered it down because, well, I mean, it says make America great. Make America great again. Why is that bad? It's a symbol of what? White supremacy. How? I mean, Reagan said it. Clinton said it. I'm sure Obama said it. Obama would probably say, the United States of America, a republic unlike we've ever known. I mean, you know, Obama's trying to make the Gettysburg Address every time he speaks. He's trying to get something stenciled on the side once they build him a statue, which they will, of course, because, well, you know. But anyway, at this point, details regarding Trotter's retirement remain unclear. With his most recent story for The Atlantic having been published December 6th, the Howard University alum's retirement comes just months after he published a column regarding Nick Bosa crashing a post-game interview while wearing a MAGA hat. Oh, my God! While wearing a hat in support of Donald Trump, which Trotter publicly stated had been watered down by The Athletic's editors. Of course he's got to state that. He's got to live in a community, yo. Hey, man. Now, this is before the election. This is where everybody, African-American, white, black, green, purple, was afraid to support Donald Trump. Post-election, now everybody's in support of Donald Trump. Zuckerberg's running down to Mar-a-Lago to get a taste. You know what I'm saying? This was before that. So anyway, Trotter has retired, and I don't know, we celebrate, we yawn, I yawn. Here is Trotter. These are the throwback to headlines where Trotter accuses the NFL of racism. This didn't stop Jim Trotter from already saying the league probably won't discipline Bosa because he's white. And then saying that the league only disciplines black players, like Colin Kaepernick, for on-field demonstrations. Failure to take some sort of action would suggest the presence of a double standard and raise questions as to whether the league is more comfortable with a white player using its national spotlight to endorse a political candidate than it is a black player demonstrating against systematic racism. There you go. All right. There you go. That is way, way, way more than enough on Jim Trotter. But Trotter wrote in a post on X, full disclosure, this is a watered-down version of the original column. I was not allowed to properly, in my opinion, contextualize the significance and consequence of the moment because I was told I'd be in violation of the New York Times journalistic standards regarding sports and political commentary. But that's a discussion for another day. He later amended his statement to clarify that the original column violated the Athletics policies, not those of the New York Times, which, by the way, owns the Athletic. Look, good for Jim Trotter, man. Go enjoy your retirement. Yeah. I mean, nobody's going to miss you. Nobody even knew you. You tried. You took a swing. And I know how this works. Here's how this works. Allegedly, this is how this works. This is my version of how these things work. Yeah, they see this and they're pissed, but they don't fire you the next day. They wait and wait and wait. Let it simmer down a little bit, and then they pay him off to go away. They just had enough. They understand the world's changing. We're not just buying nonsense anymore. We're just not buying stupidity that everything is based on race. You saw it this morning. You saw it this morning. Molly McGrath, as I said earlier, is being crushed. She's being crushed all over the place because she asked a question Jimmy Pitaro and her bosses, Dave Roberts and others at ESPN, wanted to ask. By the way, Dave Roberts is black, so I guess the black question came up. I don't know. Were his boss to be Asian? What if Molly McGrath would have said, all right, I got this. Hey, Marcus Freeman, you're the first half Asian to go to the national championship game. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't know. But anyway, good for Marcus Freeman. The way he handled it, as always, was exemplary. I'm tired of Fitzmagic. I know you're not. I am. Yeah, I'm tired of him. Not sure why. One of the reasons is I watched that Amazon pregame, halftime, postgame, and it's the worst show on TV. I mean, you got the idiot on the end there, Richard Sherman, who's been arrested a few times, drunken escapades, but he's still on TV, of course. And Fitzmagic tries to be fun. He tries to be funny. Andrew Whitworth is like the old philosopher, big fat guy coming down from the mountain. Yeah, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't. Chris Thompson's all right. I mean, the whole thing's fine. Let me put it to you that way. But I'm not one of these guys, oh, man, Fitzmagic. Yeah, I know it became a persona, and good for him. He's made a lot of money post-NFL, and he must have something because the Harvard grad played in the NFL places no matter where he was. But anyway, according to Fitzmagic, former Dolphins head coach and current defensive coordinator Brian Flores became unrecognizable and turned into a dictator during his time as a Dolphins head coach. So what? I mean, you're the head coach. It isn't exactly an open society where votes matter. You're the head coach. Fitzpatrick went on to say he believes Flores will have a hard time finding people that work for him to vouch on his behalf as he undergoes head coaching interviews. Man, dude's just, I'm assuming that one of the people that gave Fitzmagic a chance was Flores. Let's hear it from Fitzmagic.
Brian Flores has been a really hot name, and I think the further removed we get from his tenure in Miami, the more people kind of forget about how that ended, and the better his name becomes. He went to Pittsburgh and got to learn under Mike Tomlin and see how he led, and now he's been in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. I think the interesting thing with Brian Flores, when I think about him and being able to play under him for a few years, is which version of Brian Flores are we getting? And in year one with Miami, take you back to that year, I mean, Miami got rid of every good player they had. And that was the jokingly called the tank for two a year. But I'll tell you, halfway through that year, we hadn't won a game yet. And there was a shift in the way that he was approaching his job. He was likable. He was relatable. He demanded a lot out of the players, but he was also able to get the best version of his players. And I really appreciated him for that. But as his tenure went on in Miami, he kind of became unrecognizable. A lot of the staff he brought over from New England, that was where, he cut his teeth in the NFL, was there for 15 plus years as an assistant. But I think he's going to have a really hard time if you're interviewing him as a head coach. I think in the interviews, he'll be likable, he'll be relatable. But when people say, okay, give me somebody from Miami that coached under you as a reference so we can talk to them, I think he burned a lot of bridges there. I think he alienated himself from the entire staff. Instead of what you were just talking about, having the humility to ask questions, to collaborate, I think by the end of his time there, he became a dictator. He ruined a lot of those relationships that he built up through the NFL. And his ego grew so big that there wasn't any room.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I mean, okay, that's great. I'd hire Brian Flores, but I have to talk to him. I probably wouldn't ask anybody that he coached with that kind of deal. I wouldn't care about that. I mean, I get Fitzmagic would care about that. I wouldn't care about that. I want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to make this place better. And maybe I would. You know what? I get it. Fitzmagic, there's something deeper there. One thing I've always said, I've always said this, always, is a backstory. There is always a freaking backstory. So there is a, what's the right word? Backstory. There's a backstory. You can bet your ass something happened there that Fitzmagic didn't like. Because Fitzmagic is really smart. Now, make no mistake, he went to Harvard. He's brilliant. His smarts and not only on the field, but in the locker room were one of the reasons he was able to stay with so many teams. But I guarantee you there's a backstory. Brian Flores catches a lot of hell from a lot of people. I'm starting to like Brian Flores because he starts catching a lot of hell from a lot of people. A lot of people bitching, whining, and moaning, and what Fitzmagic is saying there, he was too tough. Not in a good way either. I'm not condoning it. The current player like Fitzmagic, they don't like that. You can't be Lombardi anymore, but that's what he's saying. And there's a backstory. There's always a backstory. Here's another backstory. Deion Sanders made it clear last month before the Alamo Bowl that he planned on staying to coach the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, wait a second here, Nick. Hold on. He made it clear he was going to coach the Colorado Buffaloes for the long-term future despite rampant rumors that he could jump. Now, wait for it, Coach Prime, he's smart, appeared to throw a caveat in that statement, suggesting the only way he would ever leave for the NFL is what? Wait for it, the opportunity to coach who? His sons. I didn't say son. I said sons. Remember, he's got number 21 in the backfield, Shiloh Sanders, so he's got him. Shador, maybe a top pick. Shiloh, maybe not an NFL player, but you put Shiloh in that, you draft him on the same team as Shador, you may get a package deal. You may get a threesome. And who doesn't like a threesome? Come on. Here's the great marketer and damn good coach, Deion Sanders.
But is there a chance that you could head to the NFL?
I know where you're going. You try to go viral, right? Yeah. If I respond, you know we're going viral, right?
I know, right?
You know what? The only way I would consider is to coach my son. Not son. No. Sons. Okay.
I think we're going to go viral with that.
Yeah.
So that's not a no.
Well, I love Colorado. Now, I love my Buffaloes. I love everything that we're building. I love everything that we're doing, and I love Boulder, Colorado. I do.
There you go. Yeah. See, great athletes and great marketers like Deion and I. See what I did there? Sons. Yeah. Hey, look, I'd have to think about it. Hey, you can do a lot worse than Deion Sanders. I don't give a damn what you all think. He took the worst program in Power 5 football and put it in a bowl in 2 years and made every game watchable. Now, is it going to continue? I don't know. I've said forever this has a shelf life, and he knows that. Look, the smartest coach in the history of coaching, the guy that everybody will tell you is the smartest coach in terms of how he conducted his business, is Larry Brown. You look up Larry Brown, basketball coach, UCLA, national champ, lost in the national championship game, got out of there, probation, went to UCLA. He ends up every single job in the NBA. He got out ahead of it, left him wanting more like a good comedian. Went back to college, Kansas, won a championship, got him on probation. Every other job in the NBA awaited him, went back to college. SMU couldn't quite get there, left him on probation. All the while, and this is unfortunate, obviously now it rings a little different, he had a home in Malibu while he was coaching during the winter. Brilliant. And Deion Sanders understands what I'm telling you that Larry Brown understood, and that is this has a shelf life. Year 3, no Shador. What's going to happen? Don't know. Still a great coach, really good coaching staff. Urban Meyer's come on this show and told us, but what's going to happen here? Have no idea. But if this thing starts going average for a couple of years, let's say 7-4 or whatever the hell it is, none of the bigger bowl, he ain't no different than any other coach. Win, baby, win. All right, speaking of win, baby, win, Charles Barkley offers his own unique perspective on overpaying aging players, arguing teams shouldn't be suckered into paying an aging star based off past success in the NBA. I've said this forever in every league. Here's Chuck.
Contract that he got.
Not play hard. Just say he doesn't have joy in it.
Oh, no, first of all, that's total bullshit. But joy makes you play hard.
Stop it, man.
This is not the podcast. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't want to hear all that stuff. This is all about money.
Of course it is. It's
So
a business.
don't tell me he lost no joy,
Hey,
all
of
this.
course,
He
listen,
wants a long-term contract.
And the guy said
don't
no,
give
so
me
his
that. He can
joy
say
is
that.
gone. Yeah, he can
he's
say
good
that.
enough to say,
Yeah, he
I
can say
deserve
that.
a long-term
Pat
contract.
Riley
said no.
Okay,
No, but
so
listen, Pat Riley
but he
said
doesn't
no.
have his joy is gone. You're right. So
Well,
you're
wait,
right. It
wait.
is about my.
He's going to make $55 million next
so
year.
What? Listen. There's a lot of bums making similar.
It's not the
money.
point. You have a contract, Shaq. You don't get to say, unless you extend me, I'm just going to quit playing.
He never said he's gonna quit playing. Don't do
Well, he
it.
say he ain't got joy anymore.
Yeah, but
I bet he'd get joy if he gave him 3 more years.
Jimmy Butler and quit. You can't even put that. in the
That's
same
my point. But dude, when you say
can't put that in the
joy,
same quintus.
but my point is,
Listen,
you cannot. I don't think he should have said joy. If the truth is, if it is, I don't know if it is or not. If it's his, hey, listen, I deserve a better contract. I'm going into my last year. I deserve that. If y'all don't want to give me that, y'all can move me. That is, I could look at that and take it for fist on, but saying
that's
that you
what
don't
he
have,
said.
no, he said he didn't have joy. And I remember this is the same guy who slept in the gym before he got his big contract. I remember those times. Like,
So what's wrong with saying I don't have joy?
Because he don't have joy. He just wants money.
Just say you want an extension.
We
If
all
that's the
want the
truth.
money.
See, and you know what bothers me about this? I don't understand why we as players, we've all been fairly compensated in our career, all of us. The notion that once you're past your prime, they got to keep paying you top dollar, I don't think that's right.
Boy, I've said that for years. In fact, even Shaq, when Shaq was past his prime and went to the Celtics and the Cavaliers, he said the other day he made like $9 million, which is pretty good. 20 years ago or however long ago it was that Shaq played, but it wasn't what it is. It isn't 20, 15, 25, 30. It wasn't that. So you know what? I agree. If you want to come over, even Barkley, remember he left the Suns and he ended up with the Houston Rockets. Scottie Pippen, same thing. Guys were at the end of their career shopping around for a ring. And you know what? They shouldn't get paid based on what they did. If they would have got paid for what they did, they'd be making $30 million. But I don't think that's really an issue. I think the bigger issue with Jimmy Butler is he simply wants out of Miami. He's not happy. He don't care about the money at this, but he just wants out. And we'll see how it unfolds. Shane Gillis, this is pretty good. Pay attention here. You've been sleeping, now wake the hell up, will you please? Shane Gillis, pretty good comedian, one of the most popular comedians in America, by the way. He opened up about the joke that left Nick Saban pissed. Remember, man, these dudes are on the mount. They're pissed. He was pissed on the set of Game Day, revealing more details, highlight just how enraged Saban was. Saban was pissed at a joke. We'll recap the whole thing for you that Shane Gillis did on the set of a Notre Dame game. His program's integrity got called into question by Gillis on national TV in a joking manner, but isn't there some percent of jokes that are all true? All right, here's the joke on Game Day. Here it is.
You called him a cheater earlier.
I was just joking around. I don't think the SEC paid players ever.
Period. Right?
I'm joking. Are we not? Is this not a fun show?
No,
Serious show?
Serious football.
Like Alabama Jones is very serious.
No, I'm not serious.
Get the whip, Indy.
I do believe in integrity. I always
yeah.
tried to run the program that way so players had a better chance to be successful in life.
I agree.
We make more money in the NFL than any other school, 61 players in the league. That was how we cheated. We developed players. We recruited. We recruited.
For real, I'm so sorry.
Bad guy.
Saban did not like that. And Gillis is talking about it. Now, here's Gillis kind of after the fact on a podcast.
That's why I spazzed and talked on Saban, because he was like, "What do you think about the game?" And I was like, "I don't know. Nick Saban cheated." It was just a full spaz.
It was so good, though.
I mean, I'd like to explain that because that was so. After I said that, we had to go into the stadium to sit at the desk. Then I got in there, and right before we go on, he looks at me and he's like, "I heard what you said," and I was like, "Holy shit!" And then Herb Street and McAfee were like, "He's just breaking your balls, dude. He loves messing with guys. Like, he's literally just." And I was like, "Oh, all right, I'll with him back." I would have never done that if I thought he was serious.
Yeah.
But they told me he was around, so I started with him. And then as soon as we get done, I tell Herb Street and McAfee, I'm like, bro, he was definitely serious. And they were like, no way he was serious. Go talk to him. So I went up to him after news like, you think the SEC dominated because we cheated? That's bullshit. And he spazzed on me.
Were you helping him
But
down?
then, so he was still on the stage and I was on the field. So after he yelled at me, I had to help him down. And he like looked around to see if anybody else could help him, but I had to help him down.
That is funny. No, that is seriously funny. Because I heard the joke at the time. I looked at Saban's face and I could tell, oh, this ain't going great. This is not going great. There's nothing about this that a guy like Saban on national TV, who now is considered the GOAT, he is on the mountain. Here's the mountain. He's up here on top, and he don't want anybody questioning that because really he has no option. Now it's a battle of wits, not a battle of success. See, back then somebody could talk to nonsense about him and he'd go whip somebody on the field, and he knows, like every coach knows, winning is the great panacea. You win, you're great. But on a set with a comedian who's used to throwing it back and forth, you're an unarmed man. And once it's already out there, every single coach understands this. They understand that once it's out there, it's out there. That's it. Every single person probably understands this now. Once it's out there, it's out there. And there is no, hey, we did things with integrity. Our players made more money in the NFL than anybody. That's how we cheat. I get it. See, Saban had the line ready. This was really an undertold story. This is really a funny story. This is why you got to be careful if you are a serious person and you're going to take yourself serious with who you're at, who you talk to in a podcast, where you're at on a set. You do. You have to. He was with the wrong guy, and the wrong guy didn't care, and the wrong guy caught him with a left hook. He didn't go down. He tried to come back, but the fight was over. And after the fight, talking in the press conference, which is in this case talking to each other, being mad, glad, angry, or sad, I guarantee you he went, what's that, his wife's name that we all got to know, Miss Susie or something? Miss Terry, I think. Can't believe that son of a bitch. 15 different coaches are calling. That's bullshit. I can't believe he called you. Hey, can you help me get a job? You know, that is the coaching world in a nutshell. And Saban, well, he took a left hook. Be careful if you're watching this, who you're on a set with, particularly if you're on the set to maintain your stance as the dignified Lombardi of his time. Harump, harump, harump. Hey, last night, good stuff, really good stuff in the college football playoff. If you had the under 45.5, you got completely screwed. What a great second half it was. Both teams going back and forth. But here's how I look at things, and this is maybe wrong, right? People are going to say James Franklin couldn't win the big one again. People are going to say Marcus Freeman's a great coach, and maybe both are true. I think Freeman is a great coach. I think Franklin's a great coach. But here's how I look at it, and this sucks. Drew Allen. I don't know Drew Allen. I don't know his background. The only thing I know is he was a highly recruited quarterback that apparently came down to Ohio State, and when Ohio State, it was that McCall kid or McCord kid or Drew Allard. Ohio State took McCord Allard, who grew up right outside there in Dublin, always wanted to go to Ohio State. Dublin, Ohio is a suburb. It's where the coaches kind of live. Muirfield's there. It's close to the campus. He ended up not getting the offer from Ohio State, ends up going to Penn State. Ohio State fans don't like him, whatever. But what I think of is in a place like Penn State, man, you got to live with throwing that interception. You got to live with it. And that's the first thing I think of, because I lived with one. I lived with turning the ball over with a minute 18 up one in the Elite Eight. Didn't matter that I came back and hit a jump shot. Didn't matter that we had a shot to win the game. Didn't matter Rick Carlisle, the coach of the Pacers, missed a couple free throws. Stu Robinson had a jump shot. Didn't matter. What people remembered was a minute 18 to go in the game. I turned the ball over. And I've had to live with that, and it ain't good. I made fun of it. I immediately Monday went into the hyper at the busiest times, reenacted it, and people just started laughing. So I just kind of owned it and went along. But when you throw an interception, particularly in the modern era, this is what I think of. Great kick for that Jeter kid. Great for him. If he'd have missed it, could you imagine being his mom or dad? But Drew Allard, when he threw that last interception after underthrowing a ball that he got bailed out on, right? On that interference call when he threw it in the left corner to the tight end, all of a sudden the flags came out and everybody was saying, wait a second. Notre Dame's the one you're supposed to be favoring, not Penn State, but they did. Great game, 27-24, fantastic ending, riveting, end of your seat kind of stuff. My friend Greg McElroy, I'm not sure what he was talking about not scoring too fast with 29 seconds. I get it. But the truth of the matter is my thought immediately went to that Allard kid. He today, and this is hard, really hard. A lot of you don't care. I do. He today wakes up as a guy that just had the game right there. And you know this as a quarterback, you got enough time, you got timeouts, the clock stops after a first down to reset. It's not like the NFL. And here we go. How many quarterbacks have led their teams down the field in this instance? A lot. And frankly, that's what they're paying him for. They're not paying him to go beat Western Illinois. They're paying him to win that game on that march with that drive, and he didn't. And it's not that they went to overtime. That'd have been fine. It's that he threw an interception on a bad decision. And it was kind of ironic because Greg McElroy, who I think is terrific, had just talked about his boom. The fact that he had like 50 touchdowns and only 9 picks. The fact that he was a terrific and trusted decision maker. Boom, wrong ball. Defender made a play. Next thing you got to wake up with it. It was a great game. Notre Dame moves on. I don't know who they're going to play except they're going to play Ohio State, and that's awesome. But man, oh man, I think about Drew Allard, his mom, his dad this morning. There is not a payment. There is not a check. There is nothing, unless you can get back in that position again next year. And a year goes by fast for most of us, but for a football player that did that, it's forever. So that's what I thought about the game last. Hey, look, great game. Defenses were great first half. Second half defenses let up a little bit. Offenses figured it out. Notre Dame had the ball last after a great defensive play, but man, Drew Allard's family, I feel for you.